In 2025, the United States imposed a hefty 25% tariff on a wide array of Canadian goods. This marked a significant escalation in trade tensions between the two neighboring countries. The tariffs covered products from steel and aluminum to lumber and dairy. The U.S. cited trade deficits and national security as justifications. Canadians were taken aback by the suddenness and severity of the tariffs. Canada found itself in the crosshairs of an escalating trade war. The tariffs threatened to disrupt supply chains and increase costs. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Canadian businesses faced shrinking profit margins and difficult decisions. They contemplated price increases, production cuts, or layoffs. Consumers felt the pinch as the cost of everyday goods began to rise. The tariffs injected uncertainty into the Canadian economy. The U.S. tariffs marked a turning point in the two countries' economic relationship. The move signaled a departure from decades of free trade and economic integration. Canada faced the daunting task of mitigating the economic fallout while charting a new course. Canada refused to back down in the face of U.S. tariffs. The Canadian government responded swiftly and decisively, announcing retaliatory tariffs on a range of U.S. products. These countermeasures, carefully calibrated to exert economic pressure without inflicting undue harm on Canadian consumers, targeted goods ranging from steel and aluminum to consumer products like ketchup and yogurt. The message was clear: Canada would not be bullied and was prepared to defend its economic interests. Beyond tariffs, Canada adopted a multi-pronged strategy to counter the U.S. measures and bolster its economic resilience. The government launched a diplomatic offensive, engaging with U.S. officials and stakeholders to seek a resolution to the trade dispute. At the same time, Canada actively sought to diversify its trade relationships, looking beyond the U.S. market to expand trade ties with other countries and regions. Recognizing the need to support Canadian businesses and workers affected by the tariffs, the government implemented a series of support measures. These included financial assistance to industries hit hardest by the trade dispute, programs to help businesses find new markets for their products, and initiatives to retrain workers whose jobs were at risk. The goal was to cushion the blow of the tariffs while positioning Canadian businesses for long-term success in a changing global trade landscape. Canada's response to the U.S. tariffs was marked by a combination of firmness, pragmatism, and a determination to chart its own economic destiny. The tariffs, while unwelcome, galvanized a spirit of national unity and a resolve to build a more resilient and diversified economy. As the trade war dragged on, it became increasingly clear that Canada was not simply weathering the storm, but was using the crisis as an opportunity to reimagine its place in the world. The U.S. tariffs sparked a wave of economic patriotism in Canada, as citizens rallied to support domestic businesses and reduce reliance on U.S. products. Grassroots movements calling for boycotts of U.S. goods gained momentum, urging Canadians to buy Canadian whenever possible. Social media platforms were abuzz with lists of Canadian-made alternatives to popular U.S. products, from clothing and household goods to food and beverages. Canadian businesses, both large and small, responded to the growing sentiment by showcasing their Canadian-made products and emphasizing their commitment to local sourcing. Retailers prominently displayed Made in Canada labels, while restaurants proudly advertised menus featuring locally sourced ingredients. The tariffs, while presenting challenges, also created opportunities for Canadian businesses to capture a larger share of the domestic market. The shift away from U.S. products was not limited to consumer goods. Canadian businesses, seeking to reduce their exposure to the uncertainties of the U.S. market, began exploring alternative sourcing options. Manufacturers looked to domestic suppliers or to countries with more favorable trade agreements, while importers diversified their supply chains to reduce their dependence on U.S. goods. This diversification effort, while initially driven by necessity, had the potential to reshape Canada's trade relationships and create new opportunities for Canadian businesses in the long run. The tariffs ignited a movement in Canada, a groundswell of support for domestic businesses, and a determination to reduce reliance on U.S. products. This Maple Leaf Uprising, as it came to be known, was more than just an economic response to a trade dispute. It was an expression of national pride and a desire to forge a more independent economic path. The tariffs, while unwelcome, had inadvertently sparked a conversation about economic sovereignty and the importance of supporting Canadian businesses and workers. The trade war with the United States had a profound impact on Canadian culture and national identity, transcending purely economic considerations. The tariffs, seen by many as an affront to the close relationship between the two countries, sparked a sense of resentment and a desire to assert Canada's distinctiveness. The Canadian flag, once a relatively rare sight, became ubiquitous, appearing on car bumpers, storefronts, and social media profiles as a symbol of national pride and defiance. The trade dispute also highlighted Canada's values on the world stage, particularly in contrast to the perceived protectionism and unilateralism of the U.S. administration. Canada, with its long tradition of multilateralism and international cooperation, found itself thrust into the role of a defender of the rules-based international order. The tariffs, while unwelcome, provided an opportunity for Canada to articulate its values and solidify its reputation as a reliable and responsible global citizen. The trade war also spurred a renewed focus on Canadian culture and identity. Canadians, seeking to define themselves in contrast to their southern neighbors, embraced their own unique cultural touchstones, from music and literature to cuisine and outdoor activities. The trade dispute, while challenging, ultimately served to strengthen Canada's sense of self and its place in the world. The U.S. tariffs, while intended to extract economic concessions, had the unintended consequence of galvanizing Canadian national identity. The trade war, rather than weakening Canada, ultimately strengthened its resolve, its sense of purpose, and its belief in its own values and its place in the world. As the trade war intensifies, Canada looks beyond its traditional partners. With a focus on diversifying its economic ties, the country seeks new opportunities in global markets. This pivot represents a strategic shift, aiming to reduce dependency and enhance economic resilience. The trade war brings significant political consequences. Governments worldwide are forced to reassess their alliances and trade policies. The tension between major economies creates a ripple effect, influencing domestic politics and international relations. Leaders must navigate this complex landscape carefully to maintain stability and protect their national interests. The global power dynamics are shifting. Emerging economies gain influence, challenging the traditional dominance of established powers. This transition brings both opportunities and challenges, as nations vie for strategic advantage in a rapidly changing world. The balance of power is in flux, and the outcomes will shape the future of global governance. In the face of uncertainty, countries embrace a newfound sense of independence. They seek to chart their own course, balancing national interests with global cooperation. This journey is fraught with challenges, but also holds the promise of greater autonomy and innovation. As they navigate this uncharted territory, the world watches closely, anticipating the next chapter in this evolving story.